Hi everyone, Bernard here and I hope you're all staying safe and well. Welcome to my latest Citizen channel feature. Please, if you are new to the channel, push that subscribe button and push the bell notifications as well so you know when these vlogs are coming out. And of course I do lots of stuff city past and city present, so please push that notification button. Make sure your notification is set to public as well, don't forget, otherwise you won't get to know, but press that subscribe button. Please check out my links on screen as well for Facebook and Twitter, and also don't forget I've got a little film and TV channel on YouTube as well, so if you want to have a little break from football, check that out. And of course on Facebook and Twitter I will check every few days and follow and friend everyone back on there. And also don't forget I'll have a sort of links with Blues in Business on Twitter. They promote city fan related small businesses, local businesses which need our help perhaps more than ever these days, don't they? So please don't hesitate to get in touch with me if I can promote or put some stuff out for you on one of my magazine vlogs, my city magazine vlogs. And don't forget I'll always give a shout out to local projects or charities, etc, etc. Just get in touch. Anyway, please enjoy today's Citizen channel feature. Thank you. Right, today we're going to carry on looking at Got Not Got, the Lost World of Manchester City, of course, in the company of Derek Hammond and Gary Silke, of course. This wonderful book we have a look through, and we've got 4 little items to have a check over today and see what I can remember. Sometimes I can remember stuff, sometimes it goes over my head at my age, you know, where it might be a little bit older than me or younger than me, where it was stuff that came out when I wasn't really obviously collecting stuff about city, etc, etc. So we're going to have another look at that and 4 things we're going to pick up on today. And please check out my little, if you like, sister vlogs to this, which is where I go out on the internet and buy stuff and open it live on camera. And that's of course Not Got the Found World of Manchester City, which obviously is inspired by these 2 gentlemen and this book. Right, so the first subject today, we're going to talk about Madchester. There you go, Madchester. Of course, they talk about city-related tunes, and obviously while I was looking at some of these, it's good to go on YouTube and various Google things and try and find them and listen to these tunes, etc. they talk about, just to remind yourself sometimes, or even hear it for the first time. And obviously that's what happened when you look through some of these things we're going to look at today. And of course images as well, images on LPs, CDs, old album covers, etc, etc. Yeah, so they start off with an obvious one, obviously with Oasis, wasn't it? With the definitely maybe album cover where you can you've got the image of Rodney Marsh, of course, sitting over the fireplace, haven't you, on the front of that cover, which some people may have missed over the years, but obviously it's a nice little homage there that they managed to get on. Rusholme born and City fan Roy Harper. I don't know if you've ever heard of that guy, a folk rock singer, songwriter. He's got over 30 albums to his name as I'm recording this at the end of July 2021. And he did manage just to get his City socks on an LP. Not much else. He's got a little black mark covering his modesty, but did manage to get his City socks on an LP cover. Flashes from the Archives of Oblivion in 1974. I've not heard any of the tunes on it, but yeah, obviously I've seen the cover and I've seen the image there. So yeah, Roy Harper, say Rusholme born Roy Harper, so he's bound to be a Blue, wasn't he? They point out one of the best is Cherry Red's Bluemoon city-related compilation and Dancing in the Kippax by the Freshies, of course, which you can see get all this on YouTube, find it all out on YouTube, which includes, of course, the original 70s Kippax songs I may even be on it. You never know, do you? I was obviously standing on the Kippax in the 70s, and obviously had renditions of We'll Drink a Drink a Drink to Colin the King, and no pausing, I don't think, in this version that we have in the new version, which I find very annoying, to be honest with you. Oh, Manchester is Wonderful, of course, you've got Bluemoon and other things all over a new wave tune as well that sort of plays on it as well. So that's well worth a look out for and a listen to. Of course, the Freshies themselves, of course, were fronted by Chris Seavey, or Chris Seavey, however you pronounce that, of course, Mr. Frank Sidebottom, which leads us perhaps to his own personal, one of my favourite medleys that I've listened to a few times over the years. It's still funny now. It still makes me laugh now. Frank Clark, Frank Clark, saviour of the. I mean, it's just brilliant. I mean, I do sort of when sometimes when I'm working even now, I'll try and revert into Frank Sidebottom and start to give a few renditions to my workmates of old city songs, which they look at me as though I've gone potty, which I probably have. So. Yeah, so I mean, you got things like number one is Colin Bell, and number two is Colin Bell, and all that. We all live in a beagry wonderland, of course. We're not really here, and of course, all that stuff on the Frank Sidebottom thing. Obviously, with the still image of him playing on the drums, isn't it? The fairly new Etihad, I think, by that image I've seen on YouTube. But yeah, and then it sort of takes you back away from a wonderful rest in peace, Mr. Sevi or Sevi for Frank Sidebottom. Takes us back to more mainstream. Yeah, a bit of 10cc, and we all liked a bit of 10cc. One of my favourite groups back in the day were all dodging those rubber bullets. And of course, one of my favourites was a little known B-side called Waterfall, which was, I think, maybe on the B-side of Rubber Bullets. I'm not too sure if anyone out there can remember that. I did sort of like that B-side, I must admit. We'll get to another B-side in a minute, but of course, it was these guys that were behind the Bluemoon CD, Boys in Blue tune, of course, that obviously is still sung with a gusto in Mary D's, etc. at certain times, even now, so many years later, obviously, and the words like maybe in another generation, stuff like that, sort of ring true, don't they? I think it sort of gives me anyway goosebumps. I don't know if it gives you a lot of goosebumps out there. It does when I sing that, and other lads have come to take our place. I mean, just talking about it now is giving me goosebumps. I think it's great. But yeah, there was a lesser known B-side. So we're talking about B-sides. Yeah, on that was called Funky City. So if you put that on your search engine, have a look for Funky City, and it's Funky City. It's quite good on the Orange. I think it's Orange RCA label. Yeah, that brings back memories when I used to buy records back in the day. Us old guys used to buy our 45s. Not 78, no, I wasn't that old, 45s, but yeah, it brings back some great memories from my early teens. Of course, yeah, I mean, even our bog roll millionaire, Mr. Francis Lee, he actually obviously was on the England back home record, wasn't he, for World Cup 70. You've probably heard that one, but I think Colin Bell featured on that as well. But he's actually features with, I think it's Brian LeBone and Bobby Moore and a couple of other songs on the flip side. He's the Cinnamon Stick song and Sugar. Oh, Sugar. So I mean, he's actually, so even Mr. Francis Lee got involved in the singing side of things and in the old tunes, etc. And of course, it brings us back to the sort of dedicated stuff, doesn't it? I mean, the commentary of the 1976 League Cup final on LP. I actually have a copy of this, but it's at my lad's house, unfortunately. I don't know how he ended up with it at his place, but you know, it was pristine condition as well. I remember when I got it. I can't remember who got it off or when I got it, but I do have that LP of the commentary, and I've never listened to it. I have never listened. When I bought it, I didn't have a record player for a start. It was obviously post record players, so yeah, so I will have to. I've always thought of buying another record player one day, but I've got no vinyl at the moment apart from that, which, as I say, is at my lad's house anyway. But there you go. So that brings us back to like commentaries, doesn't it? So there you go. Yes, I'm sure there's other little city things, city-related songs, etc. you could probably think about and look back on, and you do searches on YouTube for Manchester City songs, stuff like that. I mean, obviously you'll see fan stuff and things like that. But yeah, it was interesting to look back at that Madchester. And that brings us on a little bit, actually, to the next one, the 76 League Cup final LP. It brings us on to Super 8. Yeah, do you remember the old Super 8 adverts? I say, I always fancied that as a kid. I always wanted one. Long before video, you could get soccer films on Super 8. Yeah, I mean, you could relive. The only one that sort of appealed to me, and obviously you perhaps had the odd England thing with World Cups, etc. But obviously you had the 1969 FA Cup final. You could relive the victory over Leicester. It wouldn't have been on for very long. I mean, because we'll go on to that in a moment. But it wouldn't have lasted. I mean, I think it was 200 feet of film or something. So you're talking about, you're not talking very long. Put it this way, you're not talking 90 minutes plus injury time, that's for sure. And obviously, as a lad, I looked at that when thinking, I wish I had one of them. I wish I had a projector in the first place, which were expensive, and the actual films cost nearly as much as the projector. That was the problem. So you probably had to take out a new mortgage to buy these things. The earlier record, of course, the City 2 Newcastle 1 would also become available after the event. The 2-1 win, the 1976 one, would actually come on Super 8 as well at some stage. But again, you wouldn't have got much footage for your book, if you like. And all sort of my pennies at the time weren't on worried about Super 8s in 1977. It was sort of, I was working, and it was sort of going on watching City and Young Ladies. That was sort of my priority for my spending money. So I wasn't going to go out and buy a projector and buy a Super 8 film to go with it. I did, in fact, this is where it brings me on, I did in fact inherit a projector in the mid to late 80s, yeah, with some films as well. I can't remember all. I had about 10 films, 10, 12 films. Sadly, I didn't have any City films, but I do remember watching Popeye a few times. And I think literally it was 2 minutes, about 2 minutes. That's all you got on one of those reels, those reels that you used to put them on. I do remember giving it away. I don't know why I gave the projector away. I do remember giving it away to someone else. But I so wish I'd kept it now, to be honest with you. But that you do these things, don't you? But of course, that segment of Popeye took a bit of a hammer in. There's other things they had as well. But yeah, so Super 8 was there. If you say way before video, and obviously way before what we get now. But I say I certainly would have, as a kid, yes, I would have loved to have owned a projector and a Super 8 replay of the 1969 FA Cup final. Or put it this way, it's probably a goal and them picking up the trophy, something like that. That's all you would have been able to see. That's Super 8. And the other thing, I mean, you have to make your own entertainment in those days, don't you? So that brings me to a little section called Colour Me Bad. Yeah, the guys talk about the Silke and Hammond talk about the Caversham colouring book. I don't remember this one, but obviously it was 67, looks like 70s version. So it would have been something that would have probably been around. But I think colouring in, even though I remember liking to draw and drawing City things and kits, etc. I mean, to actually buy a colouring book would have probably not been my sort of thing, to be honest with you. But they give you the outline players of course, the big first division clubs, and then you could colour them in your own colours, of course. And I mean, some of the things were generic, where you could actually put, you don't have to colour, obviously, colour in something as a City thing. But say you had a stripe or something, obviously you'd have to, you could probably put the red and black stripe in, of course, but it depends on how the stripe is and whether it's a diagonal and stuff like that. But yeah, those books from about the 70s, you still actually from the 70s, I think you can still actually get them to this day. You can actually get these colouring books now. I did have a phase a few years back of the just someone said about adult colouring, which became a bit of a fad, didn't it? And I thought, I'll give that. I might sort of chill me out a bit, but I got a bit bored with it. But I never thought of buying football ones and colouring in kits. I might have liked that. You might have done some concept kits, for so obviously you see all the time now, don't you? Feel to try and come up with ideas for a kit, etc. But yeah, you can still get these colouring things for Premier League clubs, and obviously even to this day. But that Colour Me Bad one that they show there on the image is not something I had at the time in the 70s. And our last subject today, yeah, sitting where you like. And a very interesting one, this one, isn't it? I mean, there's going to be an image on screen there, and the guys talk about the 70s before the fences, of course, went up, the segregation. And that was the decade of that, wasn't it? I mean, I started going to my away games in 1973, 74, and it was in its infancy then at the time, segregation, etc. I do remember a piece of string from the top to the bottom of the Kippax at one time for a derby match. I think most of you my age would remember that, but it just all, I mean, there was police as well, obviously, with the piece of string, but it just all kicked off. It's just to say that was before the old days of fences, etc., etc. But it was certainly a fun afternoon. I do remember just everything. I was sort of being pushed one side, and these bigger lads, put it this way, bigger guys, and they're trying to get up the other end where the trouble was, and I was getting pushed up. I think I was about 13, 14 at the time. So I mean, leave them to it. Leave the bigger guys to have a go. But it was a fun afternoon, put it that way, with that piece of string up the Kippax. Some of you might remember that. Yeah, they do have an image there of Filbert Street. I mean, Filbert Street. When we went to these away games in the 70s, certain grounds were okay. But you had to sort of have eyes in the back of your head, and certain grounds were a bloody nightmare, to be honest with you. That's how it was wherever you went. And Filbert Street was for me personally. I think I went 3 times to Filbert Street. I've not been to the new Leicester ground, but it was okay. It was I didn't have any trouble there at all. Usually went mob-handed. As long as there's plenty of you, usually okay. So yeah, it's interesting. Got an image there of Filbert Street in the 70s, and that's the opening game of 1976-77. I don't think in 1976-77, yeah, things were really kicking off all round the country, you know, hooligan-wise. I mean, if you went to any of the big grounds, you went to Leeds and you went to Newcastle and you went to Liverpool and Everton, etc., and the London clubs. I mean, it could be nasty, you know. Certainly 1976-77, it was one of its heights then, hooliganism, as in unorganised hooliganism, if you like, became a lot more organised perhaps in the 80s, etc. But obviously in the 70s it would kick off, and you get escorts on the train, you get bottled and bricked and got you know, it's just how it was. That's just how it was then. But yeah, it was interesting because that is the opening game of 1976-77. As I said, and Filbert Street wasn't a particular place that you thought there would be much trouble. And as I said, I certainly didn't see much there at the time. And that was a 2-2 draw, that game. But a crowd of 22,612, the opening game of the season, and there would have been plenty of Blues there. I mean, obviously mixed in as well, not just in their own little section, but you sort of ended up going into a section. Obviously, though it wasn't segregated, you did tend to go into one place. You didn't sort of mix in, but obviously in that image there, I think you do see them mixed in a little bit. And the image does tell the story, really, doesn't it? I mean, you see fans clearly on the border of the pitch. Even in 76, 77, that was quite rare. A young lad sat in the dugout. I mean, even a young City fan perched on the Leicester substitute's lap, Steve Earle. I mean, there were different times, and this is 45 years ago. It was different. It was very, very different then. You wouldn't ever see anything like that now, to be honest with you. Because say football hooliganism was in full flow, but I think that just sort of backs up that Filbert Street wasn't the most intimidating place to go as an away fan, or you know, and there was not a lot of trouble. Although, as I say, any ground you could get into trouble if you weren't careful. I mean, I never had any troubles at Stoke City, but loads of people did, and you know, I've read lots of trouble at Stoke City, but personally, I never had any trouble at Stoke City. But yeah, you got Kiddo there as well. Kiddo with you can recognise Kiddo with his haircut, number 8. And the Leicester player with the ball, of course, on that image is Frank Worthington. Thinking about sitting down, it says sit wherever you want. There's only one place in the 70s I ever sat down at, and that was St Andrews, Birmingham City, because possibly a season or two before this image that you can see there at Leicester City. So probably about 1974-75, I went to Birmingham for a game. And there's a lot of trouble outside the ground. So there's about half a dozen of us, and we decided, oh, sod this. We're not going to take you, because you imagine Birmingham, it's a big thing where you could walk round with the standing section, if you like. You went sort of right across the ground into the corners. So we just went in the seats. We just paid a little bit extra, wet in the seats. We sort of watched the game more perhaps than we watched our backs, where you would normally do that at Birmingham, to be honest with you. It wasn't the nicest. As I said, Leicester was okay. Birmingham was a total opposite. If any of you have been to Birmingham, and I think even probably now in the lower division, there's probably still a lot of trouble with Birmingham City as well. So yeah, that's the only place I ever sat down in the 70s at a football match. Obviously, the early 70s, I was in the Platt Lane stand, so I sat down there. But at an away ground in the 70s, 80s, where I did a lot of my away travels, it's the only other place I ever sat down in a game that we played. So it's just interesting that obviously even that Leicester, as I say, that was a bit of an anomaly for that time of the crowd together and mixed up and things happening like that. But there you go. We did get out of Birmingham alive, fortunately. We didn't see I don't think there was many City fans there from memory, to be honest with you. Sometimes some places we didn't go mob-handed because obviously you knew there might be a bit of trouble, and a lot of people avoided, a lot of people would avoid trouble, which is fair enough. I mean, there's nothing wrong in that, if you like. But yeah, we did get all back to Manchester, and I didn't have any inclination particularly to go back to Birmingham, and unfortunately, touch wood, we've obviously not played Birmingham that many times since, but obviously if it came to it now, I would give it a go, but as I say, it's a place I try to avoid, although we weren't in the same division much from the 70s, 80s onwards anyway, so it didn't really matter. Anyway, there you go. There's the 4 things we've looked at with Mr. Hammond and Gary Silke. Got my little memories going. Let me know your memories anyway based on that. Obviously the music, Madchester, Super 8. Did you own a Super 8? Did you have one? Did you get to see that? You know, have you got it? Have you still got the 69 FA Cup final footage? How much is it? How long does it last? Colour Me Bad, have you still got the book? I think I still saw one on eBay the other day when I was looking on the internet. Colour Me Bad, other auction sites are on there. And Sitting Where You Like, of course. What was your experience? I mean, we could write books, and people have wrote books, aren't they, on Sitting Where You Like or Standing Where You Like in the 70s, which is probably another title you could call it as well. But that picture was quite funny. It was a good picture. It was a good picture. It sort of says a lot, doesn't it, that picture? Just looking at all the crowd and what's going on in the pitch, etc., etc. Certainly different times. I mean, you're talking, 45 years ago there, but you certainly wouldn't see that now, would you? Absolutely no chance, to say. No fences, but it wouldn't be long before the fences would be going up anyway. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little look back and my homage to Derek Hammond and Gary Silke. Got the Lost World of Manchester City. Anyway, thanks for watching. What are you going to do the rest of the day? Have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your families. More importantly, let's all look after each other. So we meet here again on the Citizen channel, or perhaps have a flit across. Have a look at my film and TV channel if you get a chance. I only ask one simple thing, please. Stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.